Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm very excited to give you a bit of an updated guide to Alexis Hall's books. So if you know me, you know that I'm a huge fan of the author Alexis Hall. I've read a lot of their books, and I will very much continue to do so. And a couple of years ago, I gave you a guide to where you should start if you are going to be delving into Alexis Hall's books. However, since then, Alexis Hall has published more books, we've got more on our radar, and I have read more of them. So I can give you a bit more of an in-depth explainer about their books and where you should begin and what kind of things you'll find if you delve into each and every one of these books. I would like to thank Sourcebooks UK and Bloom Books UK for sponsoring this video today. And if you stay tuned until the very end, if you're based in the UK and Ireland, I will have a giveaway for you to win a couple of Alexis Hall books, which I highly recommend you enter because everybody should read Alexis Hall books if they enjoy good romance. So to kick us off, I want to tell you what you will find when you delve into an Alexis Hall book, something that is common across all of their work. The number one thing that you are going to find is incredibly decadent, incredibly beautiful writing style. There is something about Alexis Hall's writing that is absolutely beautiful. And I don't bash on romance books because I love a good romance book, but there's something about Alexis Hall's writing that just takes it to another level. It's something that I don't always expect to see in romance books, but they bring it to the page and I really enjoy it. I also like that Alexis Hall's romance books are unashamedly British. They are all set in the UK, they're all set in Britain, and they just have that charming British feel to it. And as somebody who is a Brit herself, I enjoy reading romance books where I can kind of see some of that British representation just in their books. And undeniably, in every single book of theirs that I've read, there's a really strong connection and chemistry between the couple. There always is, and that's what I really like in their romance books. So let me get right down to the books, and I'm going to start with the new stuff, the stuff that I've read more recently that I can give you a bit more of an update on. So let us begin with Looking for Group by Alexis Hall. So Looking for Group is going to be published in July 29th to be specific, and this is a standalone romance. If you haven't read any Alexis Hall before, you can start here. And this is the one that I'm going to be recommending to the nerds, to the gamers, because this is a gamer romance. So you follow Drew, who's always prided himself on being the right kind of nerd. So while he's nerdy, he still has his solid friends group, he still plays sports, but he also spends a lot of time playing a specific MMORPG, which for those of you who don't speak gamer speak, it means a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And he ends up kind of working with a wizard who has virtually saved his life many times, and that character, she's so nice. He really falls for her, and he never expected to be the kind of person who falls for someone within a video game, but he does. And then he discovers that actually behind this player, it's a man. And it's not a woman. And then Drew has the realization that regardless of Kit's gender, Drew really likes Kit. However, Kit is kind of escaping their reality in their online life, and he is not someone who is easily drawn out of his shell. He's very shy, and he is leagues away from who Drew is. And so it's about whether they can bridge that distance, that virtual distance and that online distance, to form a relationship in reality as well. So that's what Looking for Group is about. I've already started reading it and I find it very cute. So this has pansexual representation, it has queer representation, and if you want a gamer romance, then this is one that you should give a go. So then we have the books that are set in the London Calling universe, and I have read all of these. The last time I made this video, I hadn't read all of these, so now I can give you a lot more detail into what they're about. So Alexis Hall is probably most known for this particular book, and that is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is one that I read and then I made my best friend read, and we both really like it, and so I highly recommend it. So in Boyfriend Material, you follow two characters, Luke and Oliver. Luke is really kind of known because of his father, who is famous, and he is just someone who stumbles through life. He seems to make a lot of very public mistakes, and he's not really sure where to go next in life. Cue in a situation at work where he needs to prove that he's quite prestigious, and does so by saying that he has a boyfriend who is very secure, very control of life, and trying to save his public image. and that person ends up being Oliver Blackwood. And Oliver Blackwood is a no-nonsense, straight-laced lawyer and could not be more of a polar opposite than Luke. But he needs a date to a wedding that he's going to. So Luke and Oliver decide to fake date so that Luke's image can be saved and so that Oliver can have a date to bring to this wedding. It's about whether or not they end up being boyfriend material. I read this one and I really enjoyed it, and I also really recommend it as a starting point to jump in to Alexis Hall's books if you want to do that. The fake dating trope is one of my all-time favorite tropes. It is my all-time favorite romance trope, so I just really love that. But also Oliver Blackwood in particular, he should be protected at all costs. That man is a cinnamon roll and he doesn't know it. He's a cinnamon roll in a business suit, and I really like his character. Luke is messy, but also in this particular book he is quite charming, and you see his character especially develop and grow. For Oliver, he's got a lot of family complications, and the way that his family view him and view his gayness and pit him against his brother is absolutely heartbreaking. Oliver and Luke both have a friends group which are absolutely fabulous, and you get to see them in this book as well. So I just think this book has everything that you need to make an enjoyable romance, with its highs and its lows and its signature Alexis Hall writing style. This romance is also fade to black, so if you want to know that, that is a good way of saying that there is no steam in this, but there is still plenty of romance to be had. Since making that video, I've also now read the sequel, which is Husband Material by Alexis Hall. This one follows the same couple. We're still following Luke and Oliver, but we have progressed a little bit further into their relationship. And Husband Material is because there are a lot of their friends who seem to be getting married, or not all friends I should say, also acquaintances. And this one is a 4 weddings and a funeral retelling. If you'd like to know my unfiltered thoughts on this, I recently shared a video where my best friend swapped books with me, and she recommended that I read this one in particular, so you can see all of my thoughts and feelings on this one in that. I will say that this one, yes, it's the trope of 4 weddings and a funeral, but also actually looking a lot at something I've been researching more heavily into, which is queerness and how queerness manifests in different relationships, specifically looking at marriage, but it's kind of examining the idea of heteronormativity and queerness and legislation and romance and where all of that falls. I think actually, even though this is a romance book, the thing that I really appreciated the most when I was reading this was how it discusses that topic and the characters having opposing views on this topic and how they celebrate and manifest their queerness, which sounds quite thematically heavy. Trust me, there are still a lot of like silly fun situations and wedding shenanigans that the characters fall into, and there is still a lot of romance to be had here, and these characters still need to do a lot of character development, especially Oliver. I think Oliver kind of steals the spotlight in this one again for me personally, because he does so much growing and he does so much learning, and he goes through a lot in this book. Then I have another one here for you, which is set in the same world but is kind of a standalone, so you meet this character only briefly in Husband Material, and then once I read this I kind of connected the dots, and that is 10 Things That Never Happened by Alexis Hall. I really enjoyed this one. I read it so quickly. And 10 Things That Never Happened, it's about Sam Becker, and he is okay at his job. He works in a furniture shop, he's a manager, he's very kind to all of his employees, which doesn't always make for the best managing. And then you've got Jonathan, and he owns all the shops, he's the head boss, and he goes to Sam's shop because he is going to fire him. He's gonna be done with him. But in the process of firing him, Sam kind of ends up slipping, smashing his head on some furniture and ending up in hospital. And he decides to fake amnesia so that Jonathan will feel too bad about the whole situation and not fire him, which kind of works but also kind of backfires because Jonathan takes him in and decides that he needs to look after him until his concussion is passed, until his amnesia is passed, and so he ends up having fake amnesia and trying to enact fake amnesia while also kind of falling for his boss, maybe, which is such a bizarre situation. And yet I really enjoyed this book. I think Alexis Hall manages to pull it off. Suspend your disbelief a bit. Remember, you're reading the romance genre and you are going to have a very good time. This is also loosely set around Christmas, so if you are looking for a Christmas romance book that doesn't double down too heavy on the Christmasness of it all, then I would recommend 10 Things That Never Happened for you to read at that time, but also you can read it anytime because it doesn't double down too hard on the Christmas festivities. Personally, what I like the most about this book is Jonathan. I think it's really hard for you to find a main character romance where the main character is mean, but at the same time you completely understand why they treat people that way or why they react in certain ways to certain things. And so I really like seeing Jonathan's thawing as he becomes less icy, slowly becoming endeared to Jonathan's extended family who are always around Jonathan. And I am someone who comes from a big family. I've got, you know, there's 6 of us in our core unit, but then our extended family is huge and just keeps on growing. And so I love when I get to see big families in books, especially when they meddle in adult lives and they're still close as a big extended family. This is also Fade to Black, as is Husband Material. So if you want books that don't have too much steaminess in it, this is the Alexis Hall series for you. We're now going to move on to what is personally my favorite series of Alexis Hall's, and that is the Spires series, which originally was a quartet but now is going to be growing, so keep an eye out for 2 more books which have been announced in this series to come. But I'm going to tell you about the original 4. I've talked about these before so many times on my channel, but I'm going to do it again because this is my channel and I will keep recommending you these books until you pick them up. So we're going to start with the first one in the series, which I actually think is, if you are going to be delving into Alexis Hall, one of the best places that you can possibly start, and that is Glitterland by Alexis Hall. And the main reason is because you discover the best love interest Alexis Hall has ever written, and his name is Darian. Darian is a cup of sunshine. If you like the grumpy sunshine trope, you will love this book. So Ash is a writer. He is really struggling with his writing. He's grumpy and he's not very happy with how his life is turning out. He goes to a club for a night out and he sees Darian. Darian is an Essex boy. He is someone who gets a fake tan all the time. He is a fashionista. He says things like, "Oh, babes," and talks that way. You know the kind of person, and that is everything that Darian is, and I absolutely loved him. And so you get to see 2 people from very different classes. There's Darian with his like Essex lifestyle and nature, and then there's Ash, who's kind of a bit more from the highbrow Oxford kind of crowd, and they fall in love and they have to overcome their class differences. They have to overcome their different ways of being and enjoy their romance and fall in love, because what was meant to be a one-night stand turns out to be a whole lot more. This is a steamy read. There are steamy scenes on the page and they are so lovely. There's also a lot of mental health representation in here. And then you should go on to the second book. That is Waiting for the Flood by Alexis Hall. So Waiting for the Flood is actually a novella, and it's about these 2 characters, Edwin and Adam. Edwin has broken up from a 10-year relationship, a really long relationship, and he's mourning everything that his relationship used to be. When he lives in a flood zone, they say a big flood is coming, and so they send in these flood specialists to help people secure their housing and prepare for the flood. And one of the people who has been sent to this town to help out is called Adam. He wears cowboy boots, he is ginger, and he's just so nice and so sweet and so lovely. And in the process of preparing for this flood, they kind of find love, and it's about trying to move on from past breakups to be ready for another relationship and easing your way into that. So a lot of this is actually a romance book where he's mourning another relationship, but you can see so many threads of hope and finding new love in there as well, which is absolutely beautiful. This one is one that has no steamy scenes on page whatsoever. Edwin has a stammer, so you see that kind of disability representation in there as well, and I think they're one of the most romantic couples that Alexis Hall has written. I really love their romance, and because it's a novella, I've also reread this one multiple times. What I really like about this new edition, which has been published by Sourcebooks UK, it's not exactly new anymore, but I still call it the new edition as someone who started with the indies. They have included Chasing the Flood in the second half of this, which is another novella, and this novella follows the ex of Edwin. So Edwin was in a 10-year relationship, and that was with Marius, and so you get to see Marius's relationship and him finding new love after having broken off of the 10-year relationship. And I found this really interesting because because I thought I was not going to enjoy Marius's story. This is something new that I've read since my old video, and I was like, I don't like Marius, he broke up with Edward, he's dead to me. But then I read Marius's story and I begrudgingly started to like this self-sabotaging man, because he self-sabotages to the max, and you kind of discover why he does that, and you kind of find a little sweet boy looking for redemption who lives in a boat, and how he is one of the keys to Marius kind of changing his behavior and owning up to the fact that he needs to do better. It involves parents shenanigans, so the parents of Marius are very involved in his life. It's very quick to read, it's very sweet, it has steamy scenes on the page, and it's really lovely, and it's a great addition to the Spires world, so I'm very, very glad we got to see Marius's story after all. And of course, Edwin and Adam make a cameo in the story. It's time for me to talk about my all-time favorite Alexis Hall book. I first read this book, I want to say about 9 or 8 years ago. Since then, I've reread it at least once every single year, probably more than once. That is For Real by Alexis Hall, and this is really, for real, Alexis Hall's best book in my opinion. This is also Alexis Hall's most steamy book, and it is an age gap BDSM romance. Just so you know what you're getting into. You follow Toby and Laurie. Toby is quite young. He wants to, or he realizes that he is a dom, but being on the younger side of things, he's pretty much younger than any other sub that he's going to encounter in a dom sub club. So nobody really takes him seriously as a dom. But then you meet Laurie. Laurie is a much older man. He has also been in a relationship for a very long time. He goes to a clink club, he sees this young little dom looking miserable, and he decides to kneel for him. And it's about their one night stand that turns into quite a bit more, and how they find love and romance. And a lot of their romance is about the fact that there is a big age gap. How are they going to navigate this relationship? But also, because Toby is quite new to being a dom, it's about actually the kink community as well, and the kink connection, and what that dynamic looks like, how it manifests in the bedroom, how it manifests sometimes a little bit in their relationship. And I really like this, as this was my first BDSM read ever. I am now very seasoned in reading BDSM romances, but it was a very good introduction to it. I think sometimes you read BDSM romance or BDSM elements and kink elements in books and it doesn't really represent it very accurately, whereas this felt like a very healthy representation of it. It felt very approachable, and even though this is a super steamy read with a lot of steamy scenes on the page, it's so romantic, and there's so much love that this couple have for each other that it always touches me. It's very British. This is one of the very core British books that Alexis Hall has written, and the writing and the language in it is absolutely stunning, in those steamy scenes in particular as well. So this will always be my favorite Alexis Hall book. I return to it the most. It's one of the longest ones, but it's still so worth it. Every page counts. The last book I'm going to tell you about here today is Pansies by Alexis Hall, and you follow Alfie and you follow Fen, and Alfie and Fen have a one night stand and it turns into more. I have just realised how much Alexis Hall likes the one night stand trope, where they have one night together and it turns into quite a bit more. And so Alfie spends time with Fen, and Fen is out and proud, and Alfie is dealing with a lot of internalized homophobia that he needs to work through, and that is actually the main blockage to their relationship, the fact that Alfie needs to tackle and sort through all of this internalized homophobia. And it's a story of keeping returning to the same person when you think you are done, but you're actually not done, and there is still so much romance there. This one is also one of the longer books, but I think it's because it's actually dealing with so much thematically. And when I read this one, I remember I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I literally just read until I finished the book because I could not stop. Alfie's journey is just so extensive, it's so in-depth, and I don't think I've read many romance books that tackle internalized homophobia in the way that this one does. And it is like an emotional journey to get through, and when you get to the end it's so rewarding. And yet I really appreciate that even though it's showing Alfie's journey with internalized homophobia, it also shows that that journey will need to continue and progress to continue being as happy as they possibly can. It's just such a slow build to what is a beautiful outcome. And before I give you some more details on that giveaway, I would like to let you know that in December, very excited to announce that in December 2025, you will be getting the conclusion, the final book in the Winner Bakes It All series. The Winner Bakes It All series is kind of Alexis Hall's baking romance series. You follow a different couple in each book, and the third and final one is coming in December, so keep an eye out for that. Alexis Hall has more books coming for us. But I know that you've been excited to hear about this giveaway, so let me tell you about it. If you would like the opportunity to win all of these books, so if you'd like to win a copy of Boyfriend Material, Husband Material, 10 Things That Never Happened About You, Glitterland, For Real, Pansies, and Waiting for the Flood, which includes Chasing the Light, this is your opportunity to do so. All you need to do is be based in the UK and Ireland. You need to comment down below in this video and say what your favourite romance trope is, and let me know a queer romance book you recommend. Comment those two things and like the video, subscribe to me. You'll be entered into the giveaway. The giveaway will be open for 1 week from when I post this video. I'll have the exact closing date in the description box down below. I will reply to your comment if you are the winner, and I'll let you know to DM me over on Instagram so that I can get your details and send you a big box of all these books. If you're worried about the fact that you might not be able to win this one because too many people are entering, there is also a same giveaway happening over on TikTok and Instagram. I'm giving away 3 bundles of all of these books, so make sure you head over to those other platforms, link in the description box down below, and enter again for more opportunities to win. So there you have it. Those are my updated thoughts and recommendations on all the Alexis Hall books that I have read recently. But give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. Again, thank you so much to Sourcebooks UK and Bloom Books UK for sponsoring this video, and you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!